and welcome to the Heart of the Matter radio show, hosted by Lorena Jefferson. Author of the book, The Heart of the Matter, Lorena is a lifestyle management coach who is determined to empower the community with the information and resources necessary to build our families and communities. We are global, so listen in every Tuesday at 7 p.m. at TalkWatchStudios.com for the Heart of the Matter sessions. We are interactive, and your insights matter, so call us at 813-639-8255 to participate in our discussion. And now, let's get to the Heart of the Matter.
Matter. I'm Lorena Jefferson, your host, and this is Victor. He's back. Yay!
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. We so appreciate you guys. I have to say that every show, and I say it on purpose because, sometimes it's easy for us to kind of bypass the small things, and how much are we learning now that it's the very small things that make such a difference in our lives, And
Yes,
you guys are not small, but I appreciate you taking a little of your time to let us know that you're enjoying the show, that you're being empowered by the things that we're talking about. And not only that you are changing by the day. It's very important to know that this show is not being used for entertainment. That's not our goal. I will continue to say that because it's absolutely not. We know that you'll be entertained because we can be so goofy here. It's just ridiculous at times.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, including Victor, and you guys have seen him, so we all know that, right? Anyway, it's a great day. It's a great
Yes,
day.
it is.
And we wanted to be able to always bring you something new and something fresh. And I'm always trying to pay very close attention to what's going on in my life because I listen for my spirit to tell me, what is going on in my environment. And not just in my environment, what lessons are there and what conversations am I having with everything, with people, with things, with experiences.
Right.
They're simply conversations with God.
Yes.
Because he's in everything. He is everything. And because of that, today we're going to speak with you guys about an important subject. It's called How to Make a Life and Not Just a Living. What do you think about when I say that?
Oh, that's deep. That's very deep. Me personally, when you told me what we were going to be discussing tonight, I thought, wow, that's something that I can kind of relate to as far as a person going through life. Say, it becomes mundane. You get into a routine. You get up in the morning, you go to work, you work your shift, you come home, you cook dinner or whatever. You do that day in and day out, and you have no goals. You have no aspiration. You don't bond with people. You don't give your time to others. There's nothing outside of that. You keep yourself just, I get up, I go to work, I come home. You're just very centered in just your life, and you want nothing else to do. You want no responsibilities, no other obligations outside of that. Making a life is you're giving yourself to others. You're giving your time. You're not asking for anything in return. You're having goals a year from now, 5 years from now. You have these goals that you set, and you try to reach those goals. You bond with people. You build relationships with people. You reevaluate your life. You do some self-reflection, which I have experience with doing recently. That's a life. You put something into what you do every day, as opposed to it being just a mundane or just routine. That's living. You're taking up space. You're breathing in an air, and that's it. You don't want anyone else to bother you. You want no obligations. No. I don't want none of that. Don't bring me outside of the box. Making a life, you're going outside the box. You're giving yourself. You're sacrificing. There's give and take. When you're living, you're not really giving and taking. You're just breathing air. You're just going through the motions and doing no goals, no aspirations. And that's what I thought of when you gave me that topic.
Absolutely. That's so deep. That's good.
Yeah.
And I want to take it just a little bit deeper because
Please.
Where I brought that in was even deeper. It's simply because of this. It's when we live just to be living, it's really fear-based behavior. And fear-based behavior can take us to the grave.
Yes, you can.
It can take us to the grave. The catch is this. Again, we talked about programming. We talked about, what we've been reared to believe. We talked about the truths that we've adopted as people. This is right and this is wrong and this is good and this is bad.
Yes.
And did we really come up with those rules? A lot of times, and most times we didn't. We got those rules from parents. We got those rules from teachers. We got those rules from government. We got them from our upbringing. Depending on our environment, we adopted certain things as the truth and certain things as not.
Yes.
Now, negotiating what someone's truth is and what is not, that's not what I want to do. That's not about this. But what happens is that determines if you decide that you're going to live your life or make a life. See, it's a very different thing because living your life is going about what you've decided as your truth, what you've decided is truth. Well, I think it's successful if I become a doctor. And according to my environment and the things that I've learned and the things that I've been taught, if I'm a doctor, then I'll be seen as a success. I'll be seen as a happy person. I'll be seen as all these things. But that's a deception.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Making a life is not just going through the motions of creating things that you think would make you acceptable to the world.
Exactly.
Acceptable to people. But a lot of us live that way. And I lived that way for many, many, many years. I have, I always talk about how I went and got 4 master's degrees, and my master's degrees that I achieved had nothing to do with what I really had a passion for.
Right.
I had a passion for proving people wrong because, I was always the last in the classroom. I was always the one that struggled with learning. And so being told as a child that I had learning issues made me push through to show people that's not my issue. I don't have a learning issue. But I was still the last one in every classroom. Why I did it, when I finished doing all those things, I was trying to prove that I was making a good life for myself. I was empty after I finished. Okay. And so what I did was I made a living, and we can't say that everything we make a living at is not something that we can make a life of, but we have to be careful not to make them the same thing.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
That's difficult to do, though.
It's very difficult to do. And you can't even do it until you realize that you're not making a life because we put them together.
Right.
That's true. Making a life is creating a environment that you live in, that you reside in, that you love to be in, an environment that's peaceful, where there's nothing but joy that filters through it constantly because you're living to your fullest potential. You're living out your passions. You're able to do the things that you know that you're created to do. And I don't know if you remember, but one of the other shows we talked about how a person knows what their passion is. You remember when we talked about that?
I remember it was several weeks ago, though.
It was several weeks ago. It was. So now we're calling you back here.
I've been on a spiritual trek for a while.
Love it. That's a great thing.
I'm glad to be back.
Absolutely. But the way that a person can decide really what they're supposed to be doing is whatever they would do if they never got $1 to do it.
Right.
That thing that burns inside of them so much that they just do it without even thinking, like it's a natural thing. For me, I know what I'm supposed to do because I can't help but do it.
Right.
I can't help and you and I have talked, we've been someplace, and you see me, if I got an opportunity, I'm going to talk to somebody.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I'm going to talk your ear off. I'm going to talk to everybody, but I don't talk to just be talking.
Right.
You know,
There's a substance to everything.
Absolutely.
That you be discussing.
I have such a pull, and I don't even know. It's always been there to empower, to always help people to have hope.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it came from me being hopeless for so long. I'm not sure what it is, but I so value what I received when I gained the ability to take my identity back. When I was able to take my identity back, I was able to go from having a living to having a life.
To having a life. Yes.
And so, you know, I share things with you. I share things on air. You know, you guys, I'm very passionate about being very transparent before you. And it's for a reason that I do what I do. I do it because I want people to understand that making a life only comes with freedom to express yourself. It only comes with the freedom to know that you're loved no matter what you think you fall short on.
Well, let me ask you this, because I thought about this earlier today when I was driving over, when making a life. If a person enjoys being secluded, being a loner, say they have a job, they function within society, and they're happy with that, they're okay with that, is that making a life? They're not sharing any knowledge with anyone, or they're not instilling morals and values or giving themselves to others. Mm-hmm. Say, for example, someone that volunteers coaching children, youth sports, or someone that goes volunteer at an elderly care center, mm-hmm. something of that nature. They're giving their time and not really expecting, definitely they don't get paid for it, and they're not really expecting anything in return. I think, I admire that type of activity. But if a person has nothing really to do outside their home other than going to work, coming home, and going to the store sometime, or being out, taking a walk, what have you, and they're okay with that, is that making a life as opposed to just living?
It is.
It is?
It is. Because it's not about the behavior, and it's a good thing that you asked that, because it's a great leadway, because we have to be careful to not think that making a living is just about behavior. So let me change my behavior. Right. No, it's about, remember when we were talking about effective communication?
Yes, I remember.
And remember, the whole point of effective communication is not how you meant to say it. It's not what you meant by what you said. It's simply, did you deliver the message to the person, and did they receive it in the way that you meant it? Right. And that's a very difficult thing, because making a living is not about changing behavior. That behavior that they have, which would be really rare, it really would, but there are some people who they find their peace and their joy in everything that they want out of their life. Some people don't want to be parents, believe it or not. Some people don't want to be married, and they're fine with that. They don't have any desire to do it. There are people like that. This is how you know if they're making a living or making a life.
Okay.
If they're truly happy, if they're truly peaceful. But this is where they have to judge it. Are they making those decisions, and are they secluding themselves, or are they choosing to be alone? Mm-hmm. It's very different, because if you choose to seclude yourself because of apprehensions you have in communicating with people, or because of experiences that have hurt you before, okay, and you're keeping away from people because of past experiences, then that's not making a life. Because making a life, remember, anytime you make a life, what's going to follow it is satisfaction. You're going to have fulfillment, meaning there's not going to be that void that a lot of people feel. And they'll go and they'll do things and buy things and have toys. And then they wonder why they keep doing the same thing. They'll shop and shop and shop and shop, or they'll drink and drink and drink and drink. And it's because we were created with a void inside of us. And that void is what our destiny is to fulfill. Okay. But we can't have that void filled without the truth. And the truth can't come if you don't know who you are.
That's deep right there.
That's right. Remember, we talked about identity. And you weren't at the show when we talked about the identity being stolen. And that's why a lot of the things that we do that are fatalistic to ourselves.
Okay.
The biggest enemy is the inner me.
It's a struggle.
It's a struggle.
And
where do those struggles come from? How do we get in the position to where we start sabotaging ourselves? How do we get there?
Well, you hear this from your parents or grandparents or your teachers or friends, or you get all this information about what you should and should not be doing, what is bad, what is good, all these things that you've received the information. And you struggle with that. As you get older, you struggle, and there's a tug of war with, should I do this? Or is this really wrong? Is this bad, or is this good? Those are the inner struggles that I have experienced in my time, and I still do at times. But it's so difficult to decipher through all of that and really come to a point where you say, this is how I'm going to live my life. Regardless of all the information that I've received, I've come to the conclusion that this is good for me, this is healthy for me, and this is the way that I'm going to live my life. Even though it may be in contrast to someone that you truly, really care about who is telling you something different.
Absolutely.
That's a struggle.
Absolutely. But that, at that point, is you taking your identity back.
Yes.
And that's a very important key to this in making a life. You can't have a life until you know who you are. If you don't know who you are, how do you know what your life is? And what's so amazing about it is our identity, like we talked about, was stolen from the time we hit the ground.
Yes.
And so because of that, we become adults who sabotage ourselves. They stop sabotaging, so we start sabotaging. Yes. And those rules and regulations and all these things, and we want to make it clear there's nothing wrong with rules and regulations. It's just you have to find your own fit, and not your own fit based on regular stuff. Because let me tell you, we all talked about, when we go to do something, there's something in you that says, okay, don't do that or do that. So don't get it confused. We're not saying that there's not things that you should do and should not do. We're talking about making a life. When you talk about making a life, then we go from group understanding, from group rules to individuals.
Right.
When you become an individual, your identity is specific to you. There was a gentleman today. I was talking to him, and his mother has been a church leader for 30 plus years. I was laughing because I said to him, wow, your mom was determined to make you biblical, right? Because his name is totally biblical. He said, oh, no, that's nothing. There's 6 of us. There's Adam, there's Eve, there's Esther, there's, And I said, oh, my God, it's beautiful. That's beautiful. And he was like, well, yeah. I said, well, this is the trap. This is a trap. It's beautiful because you were given a great foundation. You were given the tools that you needed. Now, the reason you found yourself in the position you're in is this. There comes a time when you are responsible for your own choices. In those choices, you have to determine for you, Is this good for me? Is this not good for me?
Right.
Am I willing to face this consequence? Because no longer is your mom going to be able to be there to face the consequences of your choices. So you have to shift when you become mature enough to where you understand that at the moment you make a choice, you've already accepted the consequence.
Right.
It's not about shifting responsibility at that point. So I mentioned to him, I said, you had a great foundation because you have a foundation that is solid, that has worked over thousands of years. But the problem was this. There came a time that you needed to choose to have a personal relationship. A personal one, meaning find your place in your relationship with God. Find your place in where you wanted to be with God. Be an individual. Tell him how you truly feel. Trust him enough. And what you did was you tried to continue with your mother's God. That was your mom's God.
Mm-hmm. Not his.
Not his. Now, God is the same. We know God is the same. But there's a very different thing from going off of what people tell you to do, following procedures, doing what you're told to do, what is right and what is wrong and what is good, than having a conviction, making a decision. This is what I asked. I said, I understand that you've had all these things go on. And this was not a confidential session, so I'm not giving away any confidential information.
I hope not.
I would never do that.
I don't want to be called as a witness.
No. It's not a confidential session. I would never discuss anything where it was an actual patient. It was a conversation that I was having. I want them to know.
You never discuss anything confidential.
No,
so
I've never done that.
Yeah.
But what I was helping him to see was, at the moment he became responsible and he started making choices based on his curiosity, not his conviction about right and wrong, he landed in a very dark place that he's just coming out of.
Okay.
Now he's trying to find his way. This is when the identity was stolen, because now, I can't identify with my mom's God because he didn't mean the same thing to me. Because what he said, what he told me wasn't valuable for me enough to follow that. Okay, now I can't identify with my mom's God. Now I'm over here lost and I need to be saved. So how do I find the mid? Like, how do I, as a man, now I'm 30 years old and I want to have a life, because the living I was making put me in a pit.
Right, dark place.
In a very dark place. An amazing, powerful man. He's going to do great things. The only thing that I hoped for him today was that he take a hold of his identity. Because at the moment that he takes a hold of his identity and say, no, I know that I can do these things. I will do these things. See, it's just a shift. It's just a simple shift. At that moment, he will have his identity back. And at that moment, he will know that he has the power to choose his own God, to choose his relationship with God, to choose to love or to walk away, because we have free will. When our identities are stolen from us, you find people making livings.
Yes, I've seen that before, and I continue to see it today, where people live by the standards of others.
That's exactly. That's making a living.
They went off to college and majored in this subject because that's what mom or dad wanted.
Or they did it too.
Yeah, and it's not what they are happy with. It's not what they wanted to do. They didn't want to go to college. They wanted to be an artist, or they wanted to go into the military.
Absolutely. That would have been making a life.
That's right. When you find your identity, when you say, look, this is who I am and this is what I'm going to do, I respect you want me to go to college, or you want me to do this or do that. But you cannot be happy until you find your identity and you're living for you.
Absolutely.
Making your own choices and decisions.
That's the difference.
That's the difference.
That's the difference. It's so important, guys, because life is so short. You know, we think that we are, you know, we have so much time, and we live as though we have so much time. And the point is, every moment missed is a joy skipped over, you know, and a lot of times we lived as if we need to punish ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, well, we're wearing a good boy here, so I'm going to come back and I'm going to do what I was told to do. Or, you know, I'm sorry, I don't think like that, but I'm going to pretend that I think like that so others will accept me, because they would never accept me for wanting to be an artist. You know, they would never accept me because all of my parents had PhDs and taught in college, so I'm expected to do that. How could I come over here and say I just want to go to art school? They're going to have a fit. They're not going to pay for my school. You know, there's like all of these things that pull us into making a living and being in that existence. The Matrix. The Matrix. It's the same precept. You know I love the Matrix.
You love the Matrix.
I love the Matrix. But let me tell you, Victor, because I was listening and I heard a pastor talking about the Matrix. I was like, see, it's not just me. But he was saying, you know, he said...
What was he saying about the Matrix?
He said that life is so fragile. Mm-hmm. And so many people thought they were going to be there. There's hardly anyone that ever left this world that knew they were going to leave that day, or knew they were going to leave that next morning, or knew they weren't going to wake up. But we don't live our lives as if today could be the last day. Because if you knew that today was the last day, how many other choices you make in a day would be the same? You would be trying to think about it. You know what I mean? Like, if we knew and somebody told you, okay, Victor, you have 24 hours to live, what types of things would you do if somebody told you that? I mean, can you even think of it? Like, really?
That's so interesting that you bring that up. My wife and I were just having this conversation not very long ago, probably a week ago. We were just having this conversation about people leave this world not knowing, most people not knowing that it may be their last time they walk out the door.
Absolutely.
Just, this morning on the news, husband and wife and their child was killed in an automobile accident. And that's very unfortunate. But I'm sure they probably had plans for tonight, or they had plans for this weekend,
Absolutely.
or this summer, or next year, going to Walt Disney World, what have you. We never know when that time is going to come. Mm-hmm. And so my wife and I was discussing this, and we were talking about it, and I said, if I knew that my life was going to come to an end tomorrow at 5 o'clock, let me tell you, there'll be a whole lot of things that I'll try to get in within that time, and people that I'll probably want to talk to that I haven't talked to for years or what have you. Life would be a whole different perspective.
Absolutely.
And so she said, no, nobody knows when they're leaving. I said, I bet you Ted Bundy knew when he was leaving. So she didn't find that funny. People on death row usually know when they're leaving.
So silly.
But she didn't find it
last
funny.
minute they get that. What is that thing called?
Last meal.
What is that thing they do when they stop them at last minute?
They get that last meal, though.
Oh,
they get happy.
Last minute. But, that's so true. When you really think about it, and as we live, not knowing that, would it be more productive for us to enjoy our days?
Yes, it would be.
And I remember so many days of unhappiness and always sad, and I lived in fear all the time. I was always fearful of so many things, and never really, really enjoying my life. And when I came to the place, where I am, and on Valentine's Day, you know, when everything was going on, I shared with you. I think I shared with everybody. You know, I went and bought myself a balloon, and you know, I was like, oh, Jesus will buy me a balloon, so I go get my own balloon, and I was very happy with that. And
That's
I
good,
realized, you know, I'm gonna do something special for me. And when the most amazing part of it was, after I thought about it, and when I laid my head down, I said, thank you, Jesus, for peace. How many people laid their heads down that day, that special day, with someone who couldn't stand them right beside them, for someone who has beat them,
Wow.
or with someone who says that they love you, but you already know he's cheating or he's hurt you in some way? How many people lay down beside each other with unresolved feelings? Right. How many people lay down beside each other not really being in sync? So you lay down to take your sleep that you may not wake up from with
There's no
somebody.
guarantee.
And you may have said something or done something before you went to sleep, or even thought something that you'll never be able to undo.
That's right.
And that night, I had the most amazing sleep, you know. And through the day, like I told you, you know, it was a little struggle, because I was like, I wish I had somebody, you know, who would be around here scrimmaging like these men. They were all over the place trying to get balloons and flowers and stuff. And, you know, at the moment, I got my mind right. Because when I looked and I saw, and I said, what am I thinking? Because I realized I was seeing that with these eyes.
Right.
I don't know what any of those relationships were
That's right.
about.
Yep.
I don't know who they were. They could have been giving them their girlfriend and not bringing their wife anything home. You never know. You never know. Because we know people, you know. But the thing is this. If we look here and process here, the only thing we can process is what has been put here.
Yes.
Again, programming. Okay, well, I should be sad because it's Valentine's Day and
I don't have any.
I don't have anyone. Oh my gosh, I wish I had. And what it does is, when we use the programming that we have received, because those truths have been based on what other people have said. So a Valentine's Day should be spent with someone. No, a Valentine's Day doesn't have to be spent with somebody. A Valentine's Day is supposed to represent love. Am I loved? I'm totally loved. Do I love? I do feel loved. You know, am I fulfilled? I have no emptiness and no space. Do I have things I need to change? Absolutely. But where I fall short, the love in my space fills me up the rest of the way. Do I have peace? Peace is a gift. So when you get in the space of gratefulness, and when you look through things past what you see,
Right.
and really evaluate where you are, then you have a life. But if you're always trying to be better, always comparing, always needing more, always, that lets you know that you're still having a living, because there's a void there. Because remember, when you're making a living, you're always going to have a void. That void can only be fulfilled with love. God is love. It can only be fulfilled with love. Truth is love. Peace is love.
You know, one of the things that I want to touch on that you mentioned earlier about when you find your identity and having your own life, one of the important things that we should recognize is that when you find your identity, when you have your life, living your life, that struggle that you've been having for so long just subsides. It's like a weight being lifted off your shoulders.
Absolutely.
It's like a war that you've been having with yourself that has just come to a complete stop. Because I don't know if someone's ever gone through this before. Mm-hmm. I've experienced it, where the fight is over, and you're so at peace that you're so committed to saying, this is how I'm going to live, regardless This is going to be my life. I'm not going to struggle with whether this is right or wrong. I know what it is. I know what I'm going to do. I don't want to be a doctor. I don't want to be a lawyer. I know that I want to be a musician, and this is what I'm going to do, and I'm happy with that.
Absolutely.
And if I make, $20,000 a year being a musician, I'm okay with that. I don't need to make $100,000 a year like my brother do and my other brother and dad said for me to do this. The fight is over, and you're happy with yourself. That is the most important.
And that is a life.
That's a life.
That's beautiful. That is the essence of the whole thing.
Yes.
That is a life not based on other people. Right. And the biggest deal is this. We have to allow our self-confidence to be built. Mm-hmm. But the thing you have to do is you have to lose your self-image in order to have your self-confidence built. That's serious, because your self-image is based on what others think of you. Yes. But we're reared always talking about our self-image, our self-image, our self-image. Well, how do you view yourself? What do you think of yourself? It's always this challenge and this back and forth, and it sounds so professional, but what ends up happening is it makes you question everything about you, and anything you wanted to stand out of the box on, you're afraid, because the question in itself says that you're not, or you're inadequate somehow. What do you think about yourself? Why do I have to think about myself? You know what I mean? Yeah. But when you have self-confidence, you know about myself. That's it. I know that I am Lorena. I know that Lorena has some twerks. Yes. You know what I mean? I know that Lorena can be goofy. Lorena can go from one extreme to the other.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, right? Yeah. And I can go from corporate America all the way to the ball field. It doesn't matter.
You sure can.
Yeah. So those are the things I know about Lorena. See, I know that when Lorena is feeling insecure, I know when I am. But the difference is this. When Lorena is feeling insecure now, Lorena knows where to go get refueled.
Yes.
Before, when Lorena felt insecure, she spiraled because her insecurity was not clear, which her identity wasn't clear. Mm-hmm. So the insecurity, what it made her do was look more at people, even more. Mm-hmm. So compare. And then all of a sudden, I was like, okay, I wish I had that like her. Oh. I wish I could be like him. Yes. And all it did was bring more negatives into the environment. It's very different in making a life, because making a life doesn't mean perfection. Right. It's acceptance. Back to a lot of the things we talked about. I accept me as me. I was talking to a friend about it. I was like, I'm goofy. I can be clumsy. Don't be surprised at anything you ever see me do, But one thing about me is, if you see me doing it, trust me, I'm doing it on purpose because I want to do it, period. But the difference is I'm not concerned about what you think about it.
That's self-confidence and being content with your life.
Absolutely.
Because when you compare yourself to so many people, I was thinking about this. When we compare ourselves to others, okay. Number one, we don't know what goes on in that person's life. We don't know. We may see them driving a $100,000 car and living in this nice home, but we don't know how deeply in debt they are. Mm-hmm. We don't know how far behind they are on the mortgage. We don't know any of those things. Mm-hmm. We don't know if they're stealing the money from the company you work for, like Bernard Madoff or somebody. True. We don't know any of those things.
Absolutely.
And yet here we are making the mistake of comparing ourselves to these people, these things that can be gone
in a second.
And that's the torture that we put ourselves through when we should just live our life and be content with the blessings that we have.
Absolutely.
Our own abilities. You may not be able to dunk the basketball, but I can.
Yeah.
God gave me that ability.
Absolutely cannot, but yeah.
Absolutely. I look better than Tyrese and Boris Kojo, but I just didn't get the opportunity to be on.
That's what I'm talking about.
Go to Hollywood.
That's what I'm talking about. You
I'm
gotta
okay
know
with that.
who you are. That's right. And that's what it's about. It's simply about taking responsibility, taking your identity a hold and not letting it be stolen from you again.
Yes.
It will be attempted constantly until the day you leave this world. How will it be attempted? It will be attempted by circumstances. It'll be attempted by struggles. It'll be attempted by falls that you make.
Right.
Get up and dust yourself off.
Try again.
Try again. As long as you're breathing, you have the energy to do what you need. Yeah. And that's the whole thing. We are 100% equipped with what we need. And remember, each of us in our experiences and the things that we've been through, we weren't being broken, we were being made.
That's right.
There weren't stumbling stones as the world told us they were. We didn't fall and make mistakes. No, you stepped on the stone and you kept stepping because you're here today. It's not about someone else's level of what perfection looks like or what success should look like. See, we have all of these different measurements based on our programming again. So many things are based on our programming, and that's why we have to do just like you said. There has to come a time where even if it's somebody that you're close to, you know they mean well, but they got to make their choices for their life. You get to make yours for yours. And it's very important, guys, that you really listen to these tools, because what we're talking about today is choice. You can keep living, keep going to your job every day. You can keep doing all of these things that your mom told you or somebody else told you. If you enjoy them and you're fulfilled by them, it's different. You're making a life with those things. Some people do well with the things that their parents have handed down to them. But make sure you don't delete your desires and your passions and the things that make you feel fulfilled. Yep. Because making a life is ending up and going to sleep on that last day that you take your breath without regrets. Regrets. That's important.
That's why you felt you slept so sound at night, because you were so at peace. Mm-hmm. You know, early in the day you were kind of in that
zone. And I was wrestling and I was struggling, you know, and that's the thing, and that's why I always want to share, you know, that we're not sitting here because we're perfect people. On no level are we perfect people. We're sitting here because we want you guys to know that we are okay with being humans, with experiencing these life experiences that we go through, that we're learning by the day, that we're growing by the day, that we're developing, and that we're able to come, and we just want to give that back because we're grateful for the gift of revelation. You know, it's just revelation. Is what we have. We already have it inside of us. Everything we need for our success, for our joy, for our peace, for our destinies, it's already inside of us. But what we're here to do, guys, is we're here to help you to realize that you're going to be human while you're developing. You're going to be human while you're training in whatever your expertise is. You know, in all of my darkness and the insecurities I felt and fear that I struggle with, and, you know, my back and forth and all the different things that go on in my life, I know 100% with all of the things that I show and share that I'm vulnerable about, that I'm 100% called to do what I'm doing. Yes. I am a coach, not just a coach, I'm a teacher. I was made to be a teacher. I was made to empower people. I did not go through those things and that I went through, the abuse and all of those things I went through, for nothing. Okay. I went through those things because it was part of my training. Right. For what I do today.
What you do today.
I'm grateful for everything that I had to go through, every bit of it, Amen. Because it made me who I am today. I understand the low of the low feeling. I understand the mid feeling. I understand living a life. And then I understand having a life. Right. You know, I understand the abuse. I understand all these things, but not because I just needed the information. No, I was being created.
You've experienced
for
it.
Today. Yes. You know, and that's why I do what I do, you know, because how dare I receive such a gift and not give back?
Yes, I would say it's a gift for you to do what you do, because I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
I want to share something with you. I had a very interesting event that happened over the weekend.
Okay.
My wife and I took a little trip somewhere, and I did something that I very rarely do. I drove the speed limit. And what's interesting about that is I put the cruise control on the speed limit. If the speed limit was 60, I put it on 60. If it was 70, I put it on 70. And I watched all these people just drive by us. And we were driving, and my wife says, "Isn't that so calming? So much less stress that people are just driving by, and we're not having to, zip through traffic like I normally drive sometimes when I'm, just her and I are just by myself." And I said, you know what? It's kind of like life. When you give up that struggle, when you give up all the craziness and all that fighting and stress that you have in your life, and you just let it be, the calm that comes over you, the peaceful feeling, the peacefulness around you, it's like it was speechless. There's no words for it.
I love it.
That's how I kind of equated that.
And that's it. And just think of that. You were life, and the living was passing you by.
Yes.
And you know why they were passing? Because they don't understand that life is precious. So they're in a hurry. But what are they receiving? Because they're going so fast, there's nothing to internalize. There's really no experiences to be had. There's no flowers to smell. Yeah. There's no joy to feel. It's just about getting to the next place, getting to the next. And we live like that. We go from occupation to occupation to occupation, trying to make money, or get things to keep up with. But in the end, how many people are happy? And then you see people that they'll clean a house, or they'll buy a farm, or they'll do these things, and you're thinking to yourself, who in the world would want to do that? But they are so happy. Yes. But you can tell the difference when you look at the people who are in a hurry all the time, always rushing, always trying to keep up with the Joneses, and you'll see the other people, and they're so peaceful. Yes. They go to sleep at night. They don't have to take Ambien to go to sleep. They don't have to take Tylenol PM to go to sleep. You understand? They don't need anything else because they've chosen truth. Because truth is where our joy is. Mm-hmm. It's where our peace is, and it's where we feel fulfilled. It's no need to keep being anxious if you're full. When you see people acting like that, and you see that behavior where people are rushing, they have a hole in their soul that cannot be filled. But it will be filled if they would be still and choose what's true to them, what would really make them happy, what brings them joy for real.
That's true.
And that's what this is about. Guys, we just want you, we want you to always take keys. We always try to give you keys before we leave. Just sit down and evaluate what's important. Not what's important based on materials, not what's important based on toys, or, that it doesn't mean that you can't do well in your life. It doesn't mean that you can't be wealthy. It doesn't mean that you can't be what you choose to be. But what you truly choose to be will only bring you happiness. You won't feel void and need to go out and just be doing all kind of things to keep yourself entertained. You won't need to be filled by things that really aren't fulfilling at all, that even leave you empty and leave you guilty later. Those are not true things. Those are traps.
Yes.
To keep you living and never being able to enjoy a life.
We have to, as a whole, when I say we, have to be able to find the strength or find the ability to put up the walls when it comes to this, commercialization, the media, social media, all these things that promote, money. Mm-hmm. You got to have money, to be, important.
Absolutely.
To have a successful life, you have to have money. This was being portrayed. And people have to say, that's not for me.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Because the world now has become so money hungry. You look at all the crimes that are being committed out there for the love of money or for money. Money is not the root of evil. It is the love of money.
Mm-hmm.
And people are seeing all these things within social media, television, what have you, the newspapers, about money.
Mm-hmm.
Just the other day they were promoting, or they were talking about Bill Gates being $74 billion net worth, and all these things. Everything, and people think that in order for their life to matter to others or to seem important or whatever, the more money they have, the more important they would be, and that's a ticket to that's a ticket to a downfall.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, it's deep.
Even Christmas time, you see all these tweets, all this belief that if the kids don't get Christmas gifts, presents, it would be a bad Christmas for them. It won't be a good Christmas, and that's so not true. Those toys and things won't matter to those children as they get older, as they grow. They just want to be a family.
Absolutely.
Be together, be loved.
Absolutely.
You understand? So people have to recognize the trap, is what we call it. It's a trap.
Absolutely. And it's a big trap. And you guys, the keys are this. Just evaluate, your priorities and think about what's important to you. What does make you happy? Don't base it on other people, and don't run and tell people what you're thinking, because what's going to happen is they're going to be like, what are you talking about? Those negatives, remember, the negatives will sabotage into the day you leave this world.
Yeah, they will.
You have to take charge of your life. You have to take your identity back. Your identity doesn't look like someone else's identity. So it may sound to them like nonsense. It may sound like you're giving up your whole life. I'm not telling you to just run out and go live like a hermit. But what I'm saying to you is really evaluate what your purpose is. You know your purpose, because really what you're supposed to do in this world, and where your wealth and your abundance is in whatever you love the most, whatever you can do for you that makes you happy and fulfilled. And that's what a passion is about. It's about the guy that can't help but spend all his money on art supplies. That's and he's an executive, but every time he turns around, he doesn't shop for suits. He goes out and buy new paintbrushes.
Art supplies.
And every minute, all he does is spend his time painting, or every minute, all she does is spend her time arranging flowers, or it's
crossword puzzles.
It's simply about what fulfills you. It would be a very sad thing to live and keep living and never have a life. Yeah. But it's totally possible, guys. And it's up to you to make the decision. We would love to be able to decide, and believe it or not, there's no magic. There's no wand that comes with this. We're here just to empower you, to let you know that all you need to do is make a choice, because you're 100% equipped in this world. You came here equipped. So you don't have to look for something. If you start to have a life, you're going to find yourself on your destiny's path. And just by doing what's right and good in the moment, choose what's good and right for you. Your spirit will tell you you won't be doing anything. A lot of people are afraid that if we tell people that they're free to do whatever they want to, they're going to do things that they should not do. No, they're going to do individual things. They're going to make choices, and they're going to have consequences from it. So if you don't want the consequence, make sure you evaluate the choice. It's just that simple. But you are free. God made us free.
Yes.
And people should be able to choose how they want to live, where they want to live, when they want to live, and what they need to do to make a life for themselves so that they will be satisfied and happy. We really, really appreciate you guys joining us for another life session.
Thank you. Thank you all.
We are getting ready to go.
Yes.
Yes.
Good night, everyone. Thanks.
Good night, and thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.
For the Heart of the Matter.
The Heart of the Matter is impacting lives globally. You're invited to tune in with Lorena Jefferson every Tuesday at 7 p.m. here at Talkwad Studios for more tools of empowerment and inspiration. For more information, contact Lorena at prestigewellnesscenter2@yahoo.com or by phone at area code 813-273-8700. Until next time, remember, mystics swim in the same water that psychotics drown in. It's simply a choice of how you see the water.